This is Corey, CheekyCP, and this is how I made the beat. So this week was week 4. Our challenge was to remix a P.SO track, and I took it out acapella. So here we go. I'm going to play the track through, and I'm going to break it down for you.
Put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. I wanna show you more. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. I get so excited. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. When we hit the floor. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. I know that you like. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. I wanna show you more. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. I get so excited. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. When we hit the floor. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your Instagram, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your Instagram, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your internet. Put me on your internet, put me on your 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 put me 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 on your Instagram. 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 Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet, put me.
All right. Okay. So let's break this beat down. All right. So if you watch any of the other episodes, P.SO has been making some house beats. So this was a P.SO remix, and I had to make a house beat. So I'm going to try to do this as quick as possible because I know I talk forever. The first thing is, let's look at the sample. So I took a track of P.SO's called Can I Get a Witness? And the subject matter is very serious, but I took a section of the song. Obviously, it's a main section here, which is
put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram.
Okay. And that just, it clicked with me right away. And I thought, okay, P.SO, there's a quick sample here. What would happen if I just kind of built a house track off of that? And that's what we got, right? So I had to speed this up. This is at 114 BPM because it's a house beat. So I took his vocal sample and I did some time stretching, okay? If you look at the sample, I'm using Beatmaker 3 and an iPad. When you take the sample, there's a really cool tool here that you can see under where it says loop, it says BPM 95.20 and live stretch on. That's what you want to do when you time stretch, is you turn live stretch on and you just change the BPM to kind of fit within the specific tempo you're dealing with, right? So I could create a whole video on time stretching because it's kind of really hard sometimes to get it to fit. And this took me a little time, but I got it to fit. Okay, so basically I'm thinking house beat. So I have a couple actual drum banks here. The main drum bank that you'll hear in the background, it takes a while to get here, is just your typical boots and cats, right? So here we go. Nothing crazy, but the other drum elements are the things that actually make it a little more interesting. I'm gonna play each one of those. Here we go. So the main takeaway there, and that's me playing the bass. Okay, so the main takeaway there is that if you separate your drums into different banks, especially with house music, you can do different things and put different effects on different sets of the beat. So all together, it's going to sound, like your typical house beat, but separated, it allows you to kind of build a song into blocks. So that's where you can see the yellow and the purple here are the beat broken down, and the blue is the main kind of like driving, kick, boom, boom, boom. All right, so that's the drums. Okay, so I messed with a plugin called Layer, Layr, and and I just got this new controller, which is the Arturia Minilab MK2. Okay, and I started messing around with this thing, put in that plugin, and found some really, really nice keys. And I was playing around with different chord progressions, and I found one that really stuck. And this is the chord progression and the keys just from the plugin. And then I added bass. So the bass line is really where it's a little more up tempo, your typical house beat. And I just went with it. And I've only really been playing around with the bass for the past year, but I've been a guitar player my whole life. So it's kind of coming naturally to me, but I wanted to kind of make it funky and fun and poppy. So when you listen to that together, it sounds really nice. And then I added guitar too, so it made it funky with the guitar. All right, well, you'll have to imagine some funky guitar there. I don't know what happened. What did I do with this track? It's not playing. Okay, this track is not playing. I might have to reset, but I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, so we got keys, we got bass, we got P.SO saying over and over, put me on the internet, put me on your Instagram, and you'll see I kind of use a little bit of track automation to just volume swell him into the track, which is right here.
Put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram, put me on your Instagram.
Up to that point, that's a track. It's building, building, building. And then we really hit the house feel once the bass gets in there, and I had to sing over it. I pretended that, I had the artist with the great voice. I don't have an artist in-house with a great voice, so it's just me. I'm singing falsetto terribly, but I added those vocals, so that's the funny part of this track. But just imagine some good voice.
That you like it, I wanna show you more. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. I get so excited. Put me on your internet, put me on your Instagram. When we hit.
Okay, we actually don't want to hear more of that. But the fun part of this whole track is the second half. So last week we did a halftime break, and I wanted to kind of continue to explore with that. So this beat goes from 114 BPM, kind of regular time feel, where you have the snare on the 2 and the 4. And then what we did is a quick kind of your typical, breakdown or like energy rising up into a breakdown, and then it's in halftime after. So I'm gonna play from that point, and you kind of hear everything swelling up. Here we go.
Put me on your internet, put me on your internet, put me on your internet, put me on your, 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 put me on your Instagram. Put me on your Instagram.
Okay, so a lot going on here too. The main thing is now we're in halftime, so it's a different drum feel. Altogether, I'm really took everything away from the drums and just left with a kick on the 1, a snare on the 3, and the snare has a lot of effects on it. If you look at it, just the snare alone, when we look at effects, here it is right there. And we go to that channel, the reverb is way up. I'm like in a hallway down the hallway. And then what we did was we added this crazy bass, which you hear down here, which is I listed as distorted bass. And that's the main, now the chords are there, they are just chopped. The chord normally rings all the way out through the bar. What I did is I hit the chord on the 1 and had it ring until the 3 and cut hard. So I'm gonna play the distorted bass and you can hear how that sounds. And then I'm gonna also play the keys that are getting chopped. So here we go. Let me play it in the right spot. Here it is. Okay, and so when you listen to some like newer school house and deep house and all that stuff or whatever, and even, I don't even know, poppy techno stuff, you hear halftime feel everywhere and you hear, it sounds like everything's chopped and we're getting rid of the reverb. There's massive reverb and then there's all of a sudden just no, it's like completely negative space. And that's what I was going for here. So with the track you hear the duh, and then on the 3, it's just, you could hear a pin drop. There's nothing happening. And then you hear it come in again. I kind of chopped it up and led some more negative space. So that way you could hear P.SO say, put me on your Instagram. And that part is chopped as well. And in time stretch. So that way it lasts the whole bar. And then I got inspired by listening to it. I'm thinking like, that'd be cool if some vocals were on top of that. And that's what I did is I added some vocals. So I'm just saying, you like it, you do. And then I'm hitting a harmony, which is the same phrase, but just up a little bit. So I thought that part was cool. And then lastly, I'm just adding like ear candy to it, if you will, where you'll hear that little shimmer of the keys. I found another preset in Beatmaker 3, which was just like this little, I don't even know what it is. Here it is. Yeah. So kind of like an echoey, delayed little bleep, blorp, bleep, blorp. And then what I did was played this little line on it and put at delay. So I really thought about halftime. I thought about cutting and pasting some of the guitar lines too. The main kind of theme to this is the bass, the deep, heavy, distorted bass, and the guitar going blink, 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 blink. So that adds a little bit of like R&B feel to it, a little sexiness. And I really wanted like a really staccato sounding instrument. I couldn't find anything, so I just had to play it out on the guitar. And later I'll probably build something from that. But this whole breakdown I really liked a lot. I'm just gonna play it from the second half of this breakdown and then have it play out. I was thinking coming back to the house beat, and that's what I did at the very end. Is just kind of said, all right, now we're going back to the regular part of the song because we got to hear P.SO and his line over and over. Oh, one other element is this flute I added in here. So the first half has nothing in the background. When the snare hits and you hear the snare echo, there's no other instruments playing. But then the second half, when it repeats, what I did was I added in some flute noises. So that's right here. And it kind of like adds a nice, really cool, nice layer when you listen to just that and the keys together. I'll play it. So
on your Instagram.
A lot of chopping, a lot of cool stuff happening. The flute really added it to another level when you hit that second part of this breakdown.
Put me on your Instagram. Put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet. Put me on your Instagram. Put me on your internet. Put me on your Instagram. Put me on your Instagram.
All right, so that's the beat. I'm gonna open it up to the guys, but that's how I made this beat. And here we go. Let's open it up to the floor here.